Now we've got Scott Bauer. He's the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy joining us here on this Thursday afternoon to help us take a look at a few he's got his eye on. Scott, welcome. We've had the pleasure of having you on the show a few times during this pandemic, discussing, for the most part, winners and losers and some of the new trends that we've been seeing in terms of spending trends. Let's talk credit card companies and how, well, they are faring amidst all of this. Today I saw Amex up around 4%. Last I looked, though, MasterCard, Visa. I mean, I guess I'm wondering, with a few of these names, do they excite you?
Well, that whole payment processing space, if you will, PayPal, Square, they've really been on fire. Some of the more household names, if you will, the Amex, Visa, MasterCard, they go a little bit unnoticed, quite frankly, as compared to the other one. They've recovered nicely since the March lows, 6 weeks ago or so. Amex is the one that scares me the most between Amex, Visa, and MasterCard. It's coming up to some major resistance. It was down a lot the other day. It's kind of getting back what it lost the other day, $4.50 of the $6 it lost. But it's coming up to some pretty significant resistance here. I don't like Amex as compared to MasterCard and Visa, both from a fundamental standpoint, Ben, and technically.
Yeah, I can see that, Scott, from the technicals here in some ways. Let's take a look. I've got all three of them here side by side. We're looking at MasterCard right now, alone up 1/3%, but I've got all three side by side. And as I look at this, Scott, I can see what you're talking about in terms of how American Express is trading below the middle of this range that they've been in, 67 up to the 100 area. Yep. But if you take a look, the other two are kind of holding up near the upper extreme of these range. Obviously, Scott, right, you're not the only one. There seems to be a little bit more enthusiasm in terms of investors as well related to MasterCard and Visa also, relative to American Express at least.
Exactly. And I actually look for MasterCard, and a lot of this obviously is going to depend on is the recovery somewhat in place? What's the market going to do from here? But if you look at MasterCard, it's topped out a couple times right around that 200-day moving average. It's got some resistance, and it, the 282 area. If we get there again, and we're not that far away from there, so we're only 4% away or so, something like that. If we get there again, I expect a breakout in MasterCard. I like that one the best of those three.
All right, I actually have PayPal and Square up here. PayPal is holding near the highs, so it does appear as if those E options seem a little bit more favorable to investors as well amidst some of these trends that we're seeing. Square, I guess, in some ways looks similar to MasterCard and to Visa, though, so obviously some enthusiasm related to that one as well. Let's talk, though, about CVS Healthcare. Upgraded to outperform from a neutral at Credit Suisse with a target of 75. Now, I looked at CVS and I looked at Walgreens. Quite a difference when you take a look at those two stocks. I mean, you got Walgreens into a new low, CVS, again, kind of on different ends of the spectrum in many ways.
Absolutely. Big time difference. And let's start with CVS first. The upgrade, I think it's warranted. A lot of good things coming out of there. It was a couple weeks ago announced that they're going to begin testing. I don't know if they've actually started that yet or not, but they're going to have walk-in testing. So that's a big positive. And during this pandemic, and Alex talked about this morning, Alex Coffey on one of the shows this morning talked about CVS and Walgreens, quite frankly, is that, during the pandemic here, we're not typically going into the other retail or grocery stores that we normally would. We find ourselves, I know I do, running into the local CVS, running into the local Walgreens. In terms of CVS, though, from a technical standpoint, look at the charts, Ben. This thing has been completely in a channel between 60 and 65 or so, which is really their 50 and 200-day moving averages. I like CVS. I think this is going to break out to the upside above that 200-day moving average. Now, Walgreens, on the other hand, like you alluded to a couple minutes ago, wow, this thing has just been not falling off a cliff, but just that continued stair step to the downside. And for the better part of 7 months or so, since the third, fourth quarter of 2019, this thing has made lower lows, lower highs consistently. That one scares me a lot more.
All right, Scott, I'm actually looking at this one, and it has been coming off quite a bit. I just want to go back and see real quick in terms of Walgreens right now, currently trading back down to levels they haven't seen since it looks like the beginning, roughly the beginning of 2012. So it's going to be interesting to see how these fare amidst some of this pandemic and as some of the dust settles from all this. And Scott, really appreciate you joining us here on a Thursday afternoon. A great breakdown on a handful of names that
Thanks, Ben.
you've got your eye on. Think we should as well. Trader Scott Bauer, thanks to you, Scott. Trader Scott Bauer is the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. He's joining us here to take a look at a few names he thinks you should have your eye on.